So yes, we'll have to address giving the bike away. We'll do that. Bob has joined us this morning. Just want to review or chat about the wheel off incident that we had. First and foremost, we want to talk about how we can prevent that from happening again, correct?
Exactly.
And what is that, what kind of incident is that, Bob?
Well, it's a critical incident, obviously. And
Why is it critical?
because the tire came out and it could have killed somebody, or I could have been killed, real easy, had I not. But, you know, the best way to start, I guess, is to review what happened. You know, the truck had a bunch of mud and stuff caked up underneath it, and it was shaking, so I pulled it. I'd been trying to get the mud out with the power washer at the landfill, and I couldn't get it without taking the tires off. So we bring it into Joe, and we pull the tires. He pulls the tires off.
First up, Bob, not to interrupt you, but what day did we take the wheels off?
We took the wheels off on Thursday.
Thursday morning,
Thursday morning, right after our launch meeting at 7. So he jacked it up, took the wheels off, sprayed all the mud out, and we're putting the wheels back on. I'm handing Joey the lug nuts. I watch him tighten up every lug nut. I watch him get the torque wrench out. I hear the clicks on every tire more than once, because there's only 6, and I know I heard at least 12 or 14 or more. I wasn't even really counting, but there was a lot. Drove it Thursday with no problems, drove it Friday, no problems. Saturday on the way to the landfill, it starts to shake, so I pull into Pete's place, crawl underneath the truck. Well, I wasn't underneath, I looked underneath there and didn't see anything, shook the tires, felt nothing, so, you know, I drove it to the landfill. I found if I went under 40, you know, it didn't shake, so I thought, well, I'll get it back to the shop at the end of the day and have Joey look at it again to see what's wrong. So I'm driving back, and I'm going about 20 or so. And by the time I get over the bridge, it isn't shaking real bad anymore, but it's making kind of a whirring sound. And I'm going to pull over to look at it again because something's definitely wrong. And the tire falls off. Rolls a little bit. I picked up the tire and set it by the truck and called Mike. So what went wrong? I don't know what went wrong. Why that tire came off. You look at the lug nuts. I found 4 of them. They look fine. I find the hubcap a couple days later, that looks fine. But the problem really isn't the tire coming off. It was the decision that I made to drive the damn thing. You know, I knew something was wrong, and I figured if I called anybody, they would say, and you guys would know what they would say too. What?
Limp it in.
Limp it in. But I didn't call anybody and ask them. I made that decision. And it was obviously the wrong decision. You know, I made it, I didn't quite make it. But it's, the irritating thing about it to me is I get kind of upset with guys that run equipment that's not working right. And then I did it myself. So it's just, you know, why did I do it? Well, why? Saturday afternoon, I wanted to get home. I didn't want to bug anybody. I assumed what they would say instead of asking them what they would have done.
So I'd like to touch on that, guys, and we'll talk about key takeaways. Don't have any argument to Bob that he would assume that, although we all know what assume means. One of the things I discussed with Jim after the fact is that as managers, what message are we giving our employees when we tell you guys to down the stuff and to not drive it and everything? And then, as Bob mentioned, and I don't know where this happens on other sites, I don't know if it's ever happened here, I'm not going to get into that debate, but then we turn around when you call us and we tell you, limp it in or do something of that nature, that we want to be perfectly clear that, and Bob, I appreciate it very much that you said you assumed that and you made the decision on your own anyway. A couple of key things that Bob said. He gets upset. I've been harping and harping and harping about if we don't use the system won't work. It's not always great and it doesn't always respond like that, but if we don't do it, it won't work at all if we don't practice it. As far as writing things up and whatnot. The key takeaway for me is that very transparent Bob has been about the fact that we assumed rather than asking, we assumed rather than reaching out some help for some decisions to make those decisions. And because we assumed, Bob has been very transparent also about what happened, what was the end result, because we just all assumed. And it's on all of us, it's not only on Bob. So it's on the whole team, because every day, as Bob said, we make that conscious decision to run equipment when it's not running properly. And as managers and as technicians and everybody else, there is that fear that they're gonna tell you to limp it in, or that you're gonna be maybe reprimanded or something for something that's not working properly. So I can tell you that this isn't the only piece of equipment that we've been operating and assuming on. We got twisted around right now. Now's the transition time. There's other pieces of equipment that we ran, we haven't written up. You know, Brad, what did you have to tell us right here in the launch one morning about the black pickup truck?
Oh, and last time I worked at the landfill, I could feel it shimmying a little bit, but I knew it was mud in the tires because it's been so muddy out there.
Okay. So we all knew that. We took the tires off. We went through the proper procedure. It was under 100 miles, hadn't been called in for a retort yet. And off comes the tire. So what's your guys' key takeaways from what Bob has talked about this morning?
Exactly, but why would it, if Joey torqued them, they should be tight? Why would they come loose?
We're still investigating that, George. This is very concerning and very confusing to all of us, right on up to Houston, Texas.
It has a gut feeling, you know, as he said, you know, he kind of knew something was wrong. You know, so.
Well, do we have the right to refuse if upper management tells you to limp it in?
You have the right to refuse that, yes.
Okay.
I want to know what the, and we can build off this, guys, and we can spider web it, that's fine, but this morning I want to know, what are your key takeaways from, Bob was kind enough to come in and share, he's been very transparent, and I think that he shared it as best as anybody could have or better than. You know, he was the person directly involved, so what are the other key takeaways from what Bob mentioned?
I think one thing I got out of it is, you know, he, like he said, he gets bugged when vehicles are used that should not be, you know, that things aren't right, but he did it himself. I mean, it can happen anyway. That decision that you make, you have to make it, you know, on your own.
Expecting the consequences.
Yeah, you got to, I mean, he takes care of equipment, but it still happened, and it can happen to any of us. So when that decision comes, you have to, you know, reach out and, you know, call you or whatever. If you can't get a hold of you, then find a chain of ladder, whatever you have to do. You know, if you feel that there's something, you gotta draw that line. If you feel something's not right, can't figure it out, then you gotta call somebody.
So, and
If the hubcap would have been off the truck and he'd pre-tripped the truck, there's a real good chance he'd have caught it.
okay. So, Marvin, if you jumped in one Saturday, Marvin never works Saturday. If you jumped in one Saturday to go out to the landfill and work, would you have pre-tripped that truck?
The pickups weren't getting pre-tripped then.
Okay.
Do you pre-chip your pickup every morning?
It's not a trick question, I'm just asking. George, if you were gonna go to the landfill on Saturday, would you have done that?
No, I probably checked the oil,
Okay.
but lug nuts, no.
I checked the oil, just kicked the tires.
Especially with the hubcap on it, you know, hubcap off, and it'd been a lot better chance, seen it.
Okay, and well, I'm not gonna get into that. I was gonna say, what complications do you suppose if we run our landfill truck without hubcaps, but we won't get into that conversation, but what's some other key takeaways from what Bob shared? Paul, what do you get out of that? Bob sharing that with us.
What I got out of it is, it's gonna happen. You never know what's gonna happen 2 feet down the road. And plus with aluminum rims, they're not the best either.
Okay.
I think the main takeaway should be is if you're in doubt, I guess he did stop and check, but if you're in doubt, maybe just make that phone call.
And he slowed down, I mean,
And he
you know,
slowed
that
down.
picture that he showed, you know, that skid mark wasn't very far, so he was, you know, thinking ahead and, you know, knew something wasn't right, so he was adjusting to.
And he was off the shoulder, the side of the road, so he wasn't in the.
He wasn't just going 60 miles an hour and forget it kind of thing.
So Brian, I want to be very transparent about something I did. And Jim actually brought this to my attention. I have no problem working Saturdays. I have no problem being on call. I'll talk to you guys on Sundays, I have no issue with it. That picture I showed you, that skid mark that you just said, that we decided was approximately a foot where the deep gouge was, I was very, I'm gonna use the word negligent in investigating that. I did not walk back behind that truck that day. It was Saturday. I was on my way back down here anyway. I was gonna pick Bob up. I broke away from I'd been here, I left, I had to go do something with my wife. I came back, I'm on my way back, and I took a picture of what was right in front of me. When I got there, they were already pulling the truck onto the wrecker. They had the front end on the wrecker bed. Okay? The wheel was in the back of the pickup truck. So I snapped the picture that was right there. What I walked up to, I took the picture. Do you know that that truck, guys, skid some 72 feet? When Brian and Jim came up here, they actually put a measurement on it. Jim walked back, and my first comment was, after all the rain we've had, the driving rain, you could see that mark. So they took me out to show me, and the original mark was actually a deeper and more distinctive gouge than the end gouge. So I learned something that day. And Jim just said, you know, it's Saturday or whatever, nobody wants that call on a Saturday, and you go out there, and I did the very minimum of what I was required to do. And that didn't really give a great perfect description. So I say it's negligence on my part, but that truck actually skid 72 feet, guys, by a tape measure. So
It's kind of, it's really not that far, because when you lose a tire like that, you have no braking power.
well, the other point is though, Bob, is 72 feet, and we were doing what you said was 20 miles an hour or less.
Yeah.
What does that tell you guys about what our vehicles can do when the tire comes off? And whether that wheel went 1 foot or it went 100 feet, how fast is that wheel actually moving? I mean, I learned a lot from that, but it's about all of us learning and having the key takeaways, so. Anything else, Bob?
The only other thing I want to say about it is, you know, a lot of people want to point the finger at the mechanic that he did something wrong. He didn't. I watched him do it. I know he did it right. I wouldn't have done it any different. Actually, I wouldn't have put a torque wrench on it if it was my truck. I'd have just tightened him up with my air wrench and went away. But, you know, Joe went the extra step and he torqued everything down. He did it. He did it right. You know, it was not his fault at all. The fault in the whole thing is mine for driving it. When I thought something was wrong, I actually thought it was a bearing going out. So I really wasn't worried about the tire falling off. I just thought it was a bearing. Thought maybe when we sprayed around the tire or something that we got some water in there and parted something up, because the truck's got, you know, 170,000 miles on it. So that's, I was thinking it's a bearing. I wasn't thinking about the tire coming off or even coming loose, because I've never seen it. Heard of it, never seen it.
All right, guys, let's have a great and safe day.